Welcome to Made for More Leadership Podcast. I am Aaron Burke, your host, and I'm so pumped that you're with us. I hope that you have subscribed, liked, shared this. I'm hearing reports every single month about how this podcast is helping people, helping their teams become made for more, for all that God has for them in their lives. Today, I have an incredible guest with us today, Pastor Mike Santiago. He is one of the best leaders I know, one of the closest friends in my life, a great guy. Mike, I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So people know who you are.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of brief history, kind of give us your story.
Sure. Honored to be on the Made for More podcast.
Thank you.
Shout out to my mom who's probably watching or listening.
Yeah.
And,
well, my mom is the number one fan of the show.
Absolutely.
She likes everyone.
She's rated and reviewed and
Absolutely.
subscribed. So my name is Mike. My wife and I, we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina from Florida about 9.5 years ago to plant Focus Church. We kind of moved there with just a dream in our hearts and 2 nickels in our pocket.
Yeah.
And God has been so good to us since then. We've gone multi-site, and we're just trying to be like you. And I'm just trying to be like Aaron Burke and like Radiant Church and like all that God has done here. So God has been really good. We're in 2 locations and just living the dream there in Raleigh.
All right. What I love about your story is, y'all, it looks easy from Instagram,
Right.
but the reality of behind the scenes, it's taken a lot of hard work. You've
Sure.
gone through some really crazy moments.
Yeah.
So give us kind of a rundown of some of your locations, because
Yeah.
you have been in some of the craziest locations as a church.
Yeah.
Like, some of these people are listening to this thinking, church, you're in a cathedral.
Right.
That's not where you've planted the church.
No, we grinded it out, much like a lot of businesses start in garages or, in their mom's basement. We started in our townhome. There was about 7 people at a Bible study that we hosted on Sunday nights at our house. From there, we went to the Holiday Inn Express. They had a conference room that was a little bigger than our townhome.
Crazy.
And then from there, we went to an elementary school. It was terrible. The toilets were small. It was really bad. We started the
Nobody
church
thinks
officially.
about that when you start a church in an elementary school.
No, but everything is micro-sized. Like the chairs are small, the toilets are small. And so I remember like seeing guys go into the bathroom and thinking to myself, he's not going to have a good experience in there at all.
No.
So from the elementary school, we went to a community center. It was really nice, iconic, but smaller. We went to 3 services there. So we were churning out the services. It felt like herding cattle sometimes on Sunday mornings. Remember, we set up 3 services, tore down, and so that was really intense times for the church, but God really moved there. And then from there, we went to a high school. The high school evicted us with only 2 Sundays' notice.
Crazy.
And so we had to tell the church that we were moving with only 14 days' notice, and those times were really fun because that really pushed us into like panic mode. We were really, really wondering, okay, are we going to be able to survive this crazy eviction? We went from there to a park for one Sunday, from a park to a country club, and we met in a little country club, and it only took 3 weeks for them to evict us.
Oh, yeah.
there.
They had no clue what they were
They had no
getting.
idea. So there's some ladies eating brunch next door, and our subwoofers are causing their dishes to shake.
Right. They're mimosas.
Yes, exactly. As their husbands are turning on the 18th green, here we are worshiping the Lord with gladness, and subwoofers are kicking. So that didn't last long. And then we ended up at a friend of mine's church. He let us borrow it on Saturday nights, which if you know anything about kind of starting a church, it's just tough to do it only on Saturday nights.
Right.
And so we had no other option but to go on Saturday nights. And then from there, we were presented with the opportunity to merge, to acquire an existing established church that was kind of in need of an infusion of life and a transition. And that's where we really saw things transform. It was about 18 miles away. And so we acquired 60 acres of land, 70,000 square feet. So imagine going from a like a country club where you could barely fit in there and people were mad at you, to now having basically like a compound from Waco, Texas type thing. It's like craziness. And we merged the 2 churches. A lot of challenge there, a lot of change, and a lot of leadership growth, a lot of change management. For anyone who's ever been through like a merger or an acquisition, I learned a ton in that season. And then since then, we actually launched a campus back where we started the church at, which is a town called Apex.
I love interviewing pastors because people think, okay, you preach on Sunday. Like, that's
you
your
work
job.
35 minutes a week.
Right. Yeah, that's not the case. I mean, there's some major leadership lessons they have to offer that they've they've learned through
Sure.
craziness in this church world. Okay, so we're going to get into some of those in just a second.
Yeah.
A little bit about your family, how long you've been married.
Yeah, we've been married for 14 years.
Okay.
So we got married when we were 19.
19 years
Yeah,
old. I can't
yeah.
imagine a 19-year-old getting married. And then kids, how many kids you got?
We became parents very shortly thereafter. We have 3 kids, and we had all 3 of our kids before we were 23. So I have a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
That is crazy. All right, let me ask you a couple questions. All right, favorite Netflix show?
That's a good question. It was The Office until
They just took it off.
Yeah, so we
Will you get Peacock?
No, I won't get Peacock. I already like take logins from all the friends that have all that. So maybe I'll find a login, but I won't pay for it.
Okay, so what's The Office? Anything?
It was The Office. Making a Murderer was pretty good.
I've heard it's good.
True crime stuff
I've
like
heard
that.
it's really good.
Those are good shows. I'm more of like a sports guy or a YouTube culture. I'm really into YouTube. So
Yeah. Well, that's good because we're on YouTube right now.
yeah, that's
Give
right.
us some likes.
That's right.
there on
Subscribe, like and
Right.
subscribe.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right, best book other than the Bible.
There's one called Blue Ocean Strategy that I love so much.
Okay.
I heard about this from another pastor, and it changed the way that I thought about market competition. It's not a Christian book.
Okay.
It's a business book, and it's all about creating a new market. Instead of trying to compete with other sharks,
Brilliant.
you create your own blue ocean, so you're not all going for the same bait, which creates a red ocean. It's a really great book.
Getting on a shelf of your own. That's brilliant.
Yes,
Very
yes,
smart.
it's
Love
very
it.
good.
All right, favorite cereal.
Probably Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But
I'm
I
the
haven't
same.
I haven't had cereal
Dude,
in a
I haven't
long
had it.
time.
I know. I haven't had.
I know
Cinnamon
it doesn't
Toast
look
Crunch.
like it, but I haven't had cereal
Dude,
in a
I
long
could
time.
destroy some cereal. Okay, if you could, here's one last question, and then we'll get right into the topic. If you could eliminate off the planet Earth one fast food restaurant, like nobody ever has to eat there again, which one would you eliminate?
That's a great question. Probably like Crystals.
We're not friends anymore, bro.
You like Crystal?
I love Crystal.
Oh,
I love
I
it.
feel like it's just like leftover fast food from all the good places.
I think it's so
I
good.
haven't been there in years, but yeah,
Yeah.
Crystal sounds like something I would get rid of.
Well, okay, we'll be friends. Even
put
though
that
you
on
said
the
that.
list.
All right, we're going to talk about a subject, a quality of a leader that is probably the most important quality a leader has to work on. Whether you're the manager of a bank, pastor of a church, parent in
Right.
your home.
Yeah.
What is this quality?
The quality is trust. It's intangible, but it's invaluable as well. So you can't see it, you can't buy it, you can't build it, but you have to obtain it, and it's from within. Trust. The trust of a leader.
Okay, so how do we gain trust?
Yeah. I mean, I think trust is something that you, first of all, have to give before
Right.
it's given to you. So
Right.
as an employer or as a leader, I have to start by saying, I trust you.
Right.
And if I start with trust, a lot of times that trust is reciprocated and comes back.
Okay.
It's important for a leader to begin to start with trust. Hey, until the trust is broken, I'm going to trust you first.
Which is kind of opposite of how we normally think. It's like, hey, you're going to have to earn it in
Prove
my
yourself,
life.
right? When people find a trustworthy environment,
Right.
they actually elevate their level of work and level of giving
Yes.
and level of capacity because they feel like they're being entrusted to do something.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we raise our level of trust?
Yeah.
I mean, like
Our best way to gain trust is to go through things that require us to be tested.
be tested.
Yeah, so the way that I would put it is like, in order for me to be trusted, I have to first be tested.
It's very good because nobody wants to go to a leader that hasn't been tested before.
Right. So the experience I gain from being tested actually allows me to be trusted at a higher level. So the more tested I am, the more trusted I can become.
Okay, now nobody wants to sign up for a test. Like,
No.
how do we learn this lesson
Yeah.
of being tested?
Well, the way that I like to word it is like in the 1950s, they were trying to test airplanes.
Okay.
To avoid bird strike. If you don't know what a bird strike is, basically when an airplane is taking off or landing, sometimes they get in the way of flocks of birds.
Isn't that what took down Captain Sullivan?
Yes. In
The
that
geese.
Movie. Yes. It's called a bird strike. And so
Okay.
in order to prepare for a bird strike in the air, they had to prepare for a bird strike on the ground. And they built this chicken gun. They put frozen chickens into like a pipe. and they fired the frozen chickens.
Wouldn't you have loved to be that engineer?
Would have loved to gone to the store and said, "Give me all the chickens you got," because my boss just sent me here and he built a chicken gun.
You know, that was some intern that was like,
Right.
all right, yeah,
Yes,
I'm in it.
I can't wait to buy 100 chickens.
Right.
But the way that I put it is like, if I can test it on the ground,
Right.
then I can trust it in the air.
Right.
And so at one level I'm being tested, but at the next level I'll be trusted.
Okay. So let's talk really practical. So the
Yeah.
idea of it is you don't wait for you to be elevated to go, oh, now I can deal with situations.
Right.
So how do we learn to be tested on the ground floor?
Well, it's another thing. You have to appreciate your season of testing.
That's really
right?
good.
Instead of saying, why is this happening to me?
Right.
Instead of saying, what did I do wrong? Why is all this happening to me? Instead, we say, what can I learn from this that will help me be trusted in the next season? So if you're being tested right now, it's because I believe you're being prepared to be trusted in the future.
I think of so many of the things that I'm doing right now are the result of years of testing. You know, I'm not paid for what I do right now. I'm paid for the years that I got tested years ago.
Right.
But when I was in those seasons, I didn't recognize it.
That's right. That's right.
So how do we recognize it in those seasons? Like, okay, what I'm doing now is going to pay off in the future.
Yeah, I think we have to appreciate it first
Yeah.
and not go hide, not run from the test. A lot of
Right.
times we want to try to avoid the testing seasons.
Yep.
But when you avoid them, you're just delaying your promotion. You're delaying your education, right? If you're going to learn something in the testing, it's because you're going to get to a future place, another place where you're going to need that learning experience so people can trust you. It's almost like with finance. You don't ever take investments or
Right.
stocks or anything like that. You don't want someone managing your portfolio
No.
that hasn't been tested on how to manage a portfolio.
Right.
And so I'm looking to you and saying, hey, I'm going to give you money and I want you to put it where you have tested out the market in the past.
Right.
The more I've tested the market, the more I'm trusted with. And I
So
gain an
good.
experience, I gain credibility,
Right.
and I gain this notion that people will trust me because I've been tested. I mean, no one follows a leader that hasn't been tested.
No, I don't want a heart surgeon that has some good ideas
Yes.
of how you can perform heart
Please
surgery.
don't make me the first surgery.
No,
right?
no, I don't want that. But we do that so many times in leadership.
We
like,
do.
hey, trust me. No. What have you been through?
Right.
I tell people all the time that are being raised up to do something in ministry or leadership. And they're like, oh, I'm studying this stuff in school. And I said, it's awesome.
Yes.
But when you get a job interview, nobody's going to ask you, what were your
Right.
grades like?
Right.
They're going to ask you, what have you done? What
Right.
have you been through?
What have you built, right?
What have you built?
Yes.
Like, let's see the tangibles.
Yes.
Okay. So we understand trust is so crucial. How do we establish trust, in our environment? There's leaders out there today. Maybe they've lacked their employees don't trust them.
Right.
How can they start establishing trust?
Well, I think we learn to delegate responsibility and not just task.
Okay.
So instead of saying, hey, go do this, we say, hey, I'm trusting you to do this.
That's a great point.
In that way, I feel more empowered.
Right.
So if you're my boss and you just say, hey, I want you to set the chairs up this way, or I want you to open the store at this time and do it exactly this way, it's not really showing much trust. You're actually shortening the leash. But
Right.
when you extend that leash of trust and you're saying, hey, you're going to be responsible, and I'm not just going to delegate you a task, I'm going to empower you with the responsibility, that person feels trusted. And I think if you can create a feeling of trust in your organization, small business, church plant, mega church, if people feel trusted, then meetings are shorter
That's so good.
and people work harder.
yes.
It's when there's a lack of trust when there needs to be so much red tape and so many loopholes. I've realized that the longer the meeting, the less trust there is in that department.
That is gold right there. Because a lot of people are evaluating their meetings and they're so long. And the foundational issue is
Nobody
that
trusts anybody.
They don't trust them.
So
Yep.
so you're having to run through every single detail.
Right.
You're having to run through, dot every T and cross every I. But when there's trust, you say, hey, go be responsible for this, or go build this. And in a moment, they can feel empowered and get it done. That's a high trust environment. That's a high trust culture. And when you have that, the speed of your organization is so much faster. The higher the trust, the faster you can go.
That is brilliant. The higher the trust, the faster you can go.
Yes.
I think of so many of our issues come down to the simple fact that we're judging their motives.
Right.
We don't believe they can do it.
We've policied out the whole thing to
Yes.
where you have to sign off on every single step because
Yeah.
because one person 10 years ago did something wrong.
Right.
For 10 years, the organization has kind of hammered down on no more trust. We have to know everything that's going on.
Right.
When there's high trust, meetings happen in the halls instead of in the boardroom.
That is
right?
so brilliant, Mike.
If I trust you,
Right.
I don't need to have a meeting with you because I know if I just mention to you in passing, you're empowered to do that.
So we've had to establish this in the church. One of the easy ways that we did it, and we could talk about it for just a little bit, was on decisions that you don't have to make. We say this phrase. When people ask me, I say the phrase, well, you decide.
Right.
Because just throw it in their court.
Right.
So if I don't have to make the decision, I won't make the decision,
Right.
and it establishes trust.
Right. I always say, what would you do?
What would you? Well, that's a great phrase right there.
What would you do?
Right.
Well, now that you put it back in my court, I would probably do this. And they feel empowered.
Okay, now what if they're on a team and they genuinely look at that team and go, I don't know if I can trust them.
Yeah.
How do we establish and build trust within their teams?
I think trust has to happen off the clock.
Okay.
I think that's the bowling night or the Top Golf or the dinners or the fun time. Like if you create
What a great phrase. Trust is to be done off the clock.
it's
That's
got to
so
be off
good.
the clock, right? Because if we go in to do a job,
Right.
it's kind of hard to sidebar trust.
Yeah.
But if I show up to your kid's birthday party or we go to this football game
Right.
together, we're establishing trust. I know that for guys, a lot of guys, we love to like sweat together. They say
Right.
if they sweat together, they get together. That's working out or going to do an activity. And what happens is you begin to just establish a real strong level of trust. A meal together really does
So
that a lot.
good.
Those kind of things break the mold of the 9 to 5
Yep.
structure, and you see someone outside. For me, I love golfing with guys that really don't golf very often because it's 4 hours of watching them struggle through something. But
that's why you go golf with me.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's why you're with me.
It's very enjoyable to watch you
Thank
golf.
you.
So,
I'm really bad.
but it establishes trust because you're going to be there for 18 holes and 90 shots, 100 shots.
Yep.
And so every single time you're just learning how they act, you're learning their behaviors, their attitudes, and it helps establish trust.
There is some times where we have, as our team, where I've realized trust has been lacking, and it's where we've just had to have a meeting about that. Like, let's just throw it all on the line.
Yeah.
What is the unspoken thing
Right.
that is the elephant in the
Right,
room?
the come to Jesus meeting.
You have to have a come to Jesus meeting sometimes.
right,
and
right.
and I realized from that we can get to the root issue of
Yes.
you actually said this one thing that hurt me.
Right.
Like that is the leader's responsibility.
That
to
is the leader.
cultivate trust within their team.
Yes,
Super crucial. Now,
absolutely.
all right. The importance of not losing the trust of your team. Okay. The leaders, we've all known this, especially in the church world,
Absolutely.
where leaders have built great things. As soon as trust goes,
Yep.
it's gone.
You can build something for a lifetime and lose trust in a moment.
It's so crazy.
So you could work your whole life, character, integrity, trust,
Right.
a bucket full, and in one instant it can spill with one mistake. And the culture is not very friendly towards losing
No,
trust.
we're in cancel culture. As soon as
Yes.
you do something dumb, you're
Yes,
out.
Absolutely.
What are some things that we just need to make sure we don't do as
Well,
leaders?
I think that obviously we have to live a life of character and integrity
Right.
in all things.
Yep.
When people are looking and when people aren't. The celebrity culture that might come from this online persona,
Yep.
if that's not what they find in person, if your persona is not who you are in person, your trust goes immediately. Well, I thought that they were that, and
Right.
then I met them in person and they were a jerk or they were totally
Right.
not what I expected. That broken promise of your online persona and your in-person personality, that is going to breach trust in a moment. So we have to make sure that who we are is who we are at all times. And I think that's very important.
Well, I think we need to start from a level of knowing there's already a gap between the fact that people are automatically going to distrust
Yes.
leaders.
Yes.
So you're a pastor, you're a
It's an
manager.
uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle from the start.
Yes.
So just don't give them any more ammo.
Correct.
So if you say something, you do it. You're the same person off
Yes.
as you are behind
I think
the scenes.
you need to really communicate with authenticity. You need to communicate expectations clearly.
Right.
Surprises, anything that surprises people really breaches trust. So
Yeah.
if you storm into the office and everyone thought everything was fine,
Yeah.
and all of a
Yeah,
sudden
yeah.
they're thrown off by something that you saw that no one else did, and you didn't lead them into that, and you came in kind of raging or you
Right.
got triggered, it's almost like you lose trust with the people that you lead because they're surprised or you act kind of like unexpectedly angry all of a sudden.
Right.
And I can't trust you because I don't know I'm not confident in your attitude.
Well, I don't know what version of you I'm getting today.
Right, exactly.
And that's not a great leader to follow.
No, it's very hard to trust that.
Right.
So, okay, now my job is predicated on your attitude and on how you feel. And now I can't trust him. And I mean, I've fallen into this trap.
Right.
My staff confessed to me that they had a name for me when I came in angry into the office.
That's harsh.
And so they called me Pastor Mike, but whenever I was having an off day, this is pre-trust conversion.
Sure.
They call me Miguel, which is my name in Spanish. And so they say, hey, Miguel is in the office, which basically meant stay out of his way because
that is funny.
He's on a roll. And so I have to be careful as the senior leader to make sure that they know that their job is safe, even
Right.
when there's a mistake
Right.
that's made, and that I'm going to be level-headed at all times because I trust them. And if I said I trusted them, then they need to be able to trust that my response is going to be level-headed and professional, and they won't have to be scared of Miguel coming into the office.
Yeah, that is really funny. What obviously the subject of integrity is so huge,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's such a major thing, and moral failures.
A lot.
We were talking about pastors in the
yeah.
car today, where their whole reputation, everything
Gone.
It's gone in a
Gone.
matter of moments.
Yes.
How do we guard ourselves in this kind of world? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
not just as spiritual leaders, but
Right.
as dads,
Yeah.
and spouses,
For
and
sure.
Christians.
Yeah.
Like, how do we guard ourselves to be people that are trusted leaders?
I think we have to make sure we're chasing the right thing, right?
Right.
If we're chasing celebrity status, it's going to
Right.
come with a lot of mess, I think we need to live simply. If we can try our best to live as simple as possible.
Simple living is so crucial.
It's like I don't need to go to every single party I get invited to.
Yep.
I don't need to be on everyone's Instagram post.
Right.
If I can make sure that my kids love the Lord, that my home is full of
Yeah.
love and joy and peace, and if I can make sure that what I'm responsible for is covered, then I'm not going to be distracted
Yeah.
by other opportunities that are not of God. I also think that there's a blessing that comes with accountability, and this isn't just like surface accountability
Yeah.
or bylaw accountability that's in your the board on your nonprofit or at your church, but I'm talking about a real friendship where when someone pops the hood of your soul, they
Right.
really get a good look at what's inside, and they say, oh man, I messed up, or I'm torn, or I have a big decision and I might have slipped up there. Someone that could call you out for that is so important. I think you serve as that in my life.
Yep.
We have a couple other friends that we know that we can call that aren't inside our organization, but they know the mess, and they can look under the hood of our souls and say, man, we love you regardless, and we're going to help you fix that, because it can be gone in a moment if it's not kept in check.
Absolutely. It can be gone in a moment, and we've seen it go in a moment.
It does.
Where people have built incredible things, and not just in the Christian church world.
No.
I mean, we're talking about in the political world, in
Yes.
business world. Character and integrity is
Yes.
everything.
Yes, and how you leave is way more important than how you enter.
Absolutely.
And if we've learned anything about that during this season, we would
Yep.
know that how you leave will really determine your legacy. You only get your report card at the end of the semester. You don't show up to school and they hand you
Wow.
your grades. They don't say, hey, here's your A+.
Right, right.
You have to go through how you come into school
Yep.
is not nearly as important as how you leave it. And they don't give the valedictorian certificate to the people who showed up at the beginning.
Right.
Those who stuck it out and had good grades at the end. So character and integrity and trust are really cultivated throughout the entire season of wherever you are at.
So, the encouragement for leaders that are listening today, it's simply that this is so rare in our society that if you do it, you're going to stand out.
Yes,
Because there's so few leaders that people can trust.
that's right.
And to just be the real deal. I think
Right.
people want a authentic leader more than they want a perfect leader.
Yes.
There is no perfect leader
That's
other
right.
than Jesus, obviously.
Right.
And the authenticity, that we have struggles, we are humans.
Yes.
I think when people get unapproachable, lack of
Dangerous.
it's dangerous.
Yes.
Lack of accountability, lack of friends in their life.
Right.
Every story I hear of people who have fallen morally, their marriage has fallen apart, it's always they were out of touch with, they believed a lot of the press about their lives that they
That's
were better
right.
than
They were
really
chasing something that
They were.
was just-
Their validation was in followers and all this
Right,
kind of stuff.
right.
I think that so many of that is just like having people in your life that can ask you a question like, do you really need that?
Right,
You really care
right.
that much?
Right.
Are you really after it for that reason?
Yeah,
You want to make more money really because
Right.
you want to give it away?
Right.
Really?
Right.
Or do you want a nicer car?
We
Or-
started asking this question around the staff, and it's been super helpful. Instead of how are you doing or how are you feeling, we ask, how's your heart?
It's very good.
And so when you go to how's your heart, there is no fine. There is no good.
Yeah.
There is no it's okay. When someone asks you about the condition of your heart, you can then begin to really explain what's going on the inside. And when we shifted that language, it changed our whole staff culture, because I've not only been entrusted with their employment, I'm now being entrusted with their hearts as a leader.
So good.
And so when I ask, how's your heart? It really builds trust, because they're saying, man, he's asking me challenging questions, but challenging questions that reveal that he cares for me.
All right, last group that is listening to this are going, where was this 6 months ago? I was a trusted leader. I have broken trust. Okay, how would we tell people to get back on the path towards being a leader that's trusted?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that stuff just comes through time, but I think humility is
so crucial.
Not coming in and saying, I know I broke your trust, but trust me again. It's like
it doesn't work.
Chanting or writing a memo, hey, I'm back on the trust train.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. Right. What you need to do is just submit yourself to what we would do is submit ourselves to the Lord, but submit yourself to a process if you're a leader and say, all right, I'm going to regain the trust of one person at a time.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to regain the trust of the whole organization at once if I've lost it, but I can maybe recover that relationship with a coffee. I can redeem that relationship with another meeting. I should apologize about that one thing that I did. I should start asking, how's your heart, to these people. And eventually what gets modeled and what gets done will eventually overflow into the whole organization.
You know, I've realized that when trust is high in the organization, I have to explain myself a lot less.
Yes.
But when trust is very low, I have to over-explain.
Yeah, there's more questions.
Over-communicate. You know, when you break trust with your spouse, if someone's committed an affair or there's some issue, you have to go to the other side of over-communicating.
Yes.
So there's probably some leaders that you've gone, well, you know, they should know my heart that I'm doing it. Well, they don't know your heart.
Right.
They've only seen your bad actions.
Right.
So maybe go through a season where you're communicating a little bit more than you would.
Yes.
Tell them how you've got their back. I love how you started this thing. Tell about how you trust them. You're sold on them.
Yes.
When you give out trust.
Yes.
It comes back towards you.
Yeah. I can see it too. You know, it's probably going to take longer than you expect.
Yeah.
We always think, you know, as husbands, you know, married people, we think when we apologize that the argument is over.
Done.
But we know that for our spouse, a lot of times there's a delayed effect of our apology. Even if it's genuine, it's on their time.
Right.
And so I would say trust is the same way. You know, even if you're ready to be trusted again, it's going to take them a little bit more time than maybe you expect.
All right. Any closing thoughts that you have for some of the leaders that are with us?
I'm just honored to be here. Grateful for you. Grateful for the impact you're having, not just in Tampa Bay, but all around the world. Grateful for the impact you've had on my church. I've had you come in and preach, and it's always a gift. You are a gift from God to me.
That.
So I'm serious. I'm not even joking.
All right. Where do you think the world's heading with the COVID world?
I think that we are going to see probably, I don't want to be a prophet here, but
those haven't worked out too well this last year.
I'm not a prophet. I'm not predicting anything. This is just what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
I think people are going to be hungry for the real and tired of the screen. They're going to be tired of the scroll. They're going to be tired of the virtual version of whatever they were doing. Right? That doesn't just apply to churches, but schools and businesses and everything else. I think they're going to want to sit down in a restaurant again. I think they're going to want to work out without a mask again. So I do think that we will see an uptick in our desire to be together at concerts and things like that again. It might look a little different from now on, but I do think that I don't think all is lost. I don't think we're going to be in a cave as people for the rest of our lives, but there will be some changes.
There's some changes. The world has survived things in the past.
Yeah.
It'll keep going.
Yeah. I do think digital is more important than ever, right? Like
ever.
If you're, I saw so many churches in our space, churches jump to online giving during COVID, and I'm thinking to myself, man,
where were you at 10 years ago?
That's exactly right. They just started Facebook Living with their, iPod Touch. And I'm like, dude, you got to upgrade that camera. So I do think that that's going to be, that's not going away. Right. You're not going to be able to put the camera down and go back to church without a camera.
But it helped the church move forward years.
Immensely. We probably accelerated the church by 10 to 12 years. Who knows? It may be even faster than that. But we saw an extreme acceleration with this disruption. It was a big disruption.
All right. How can people get a hold of you?
It's just at Mike Santiago on Instagram.
He's got great quality content. He's a great preacher. He's a great leader. At Mike Santiago, he's an incredible leader. Thank you, Mike, for being here. Listen, if you like this podcast, make sure you let us know. Do me a favor. Make sure you share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe so you're the first one. We release these the first Wednesday of every month. I've been trying to release 2 because you guys asked for it. So I'm going to keep doing it. And I love you guys. Glad we're part of this Made for More family. We'll see you next month on the next episode.